I'm trying to be a creator, something. But I do got a life story I could tell. At the like I got a long story, and I've been thinking about writing a book about my life, like my whole lifestyle, like what I came, what I had done in the past, like everything what I had done, and like honestly, I want to find a platform I could talk on it about. Some of it might be rated R, some might PG-13, something like a lot of things what I had done. Like I know when I was 16 years old or 15, had a summer job, had a girlfriend. I was young, hanging out with the homeboys, and her sister were like, "Shamika, why Chris don't buy you nothing? You supposed to be his girlfriend." I'm young, like I'm like, I started working, but like she wasn't my first. Like we broke up at a point, and I got with this older woman. I was like, at the time I was 16 years old, and she was the lady was 36. So I slept with her. She was like actual my first. Like I mean, she gave a nigga some head. I mean, she gave a nigga head for 5 hours straight. She turned the young buck out. Nigga, I was like, fuck. But then, like, me and her, we dated for a little while. A nigga, I was cocky, sophomore. I'm like, yeah, I'm banging this 30-year-old, 6-year-old woman. She had ass for days. She had a donkey booty. But more to the story, then, like, my mom found out. Then, my mom had to call my sisters, my cousins. Like, they all beat this bitch ass. Like, because she was like, oh, he lied and said he was 18. And like, no, damn well I wasn't 18. I still had a baby face. And yeah. Then like I had to tell my dad about it. Like, he called from jail one day. And I told him that. He was like, son, you got pictures of her? And I was like, nah, I ain't had no pictures of her. But, it was cool. We dated like for like 4 months. And yeah, and I remember her name, but I refuse to share her name online because I don't want her to get in trouble. But it's been some years now. But continue for part two.